NBA Countdown coming up here momentarily. We just talked about it. No bigger game on the schedule, at least today, than Clippers and Warriors. We're all looking at Steph Curry.
Yeah, listen, we're going to be watching that thumb. They certainly could use the rest. It's so crazy. It's an 82-game regular season, and we're coming down to the final day to see who's going to avoid the play-in. As we say hello to Malika Andrews and the Countdown crew. Hey there.
Hey, Hannah, thank you so very much. Yeah, she's right. It all comes down to this, gentlemen. Just one day in the regular season left this afternoon, and there's only 3 things we know in the Western Conference. That means that things are going to get wild. Stephen A., it essentially could come down to the last game here on ESPN, the Clippers and the Golden State Warriors, for who's in, who's out. What are you watching most closely in this one?
Well, I want to see what the Clippers, I mean, listen, they've won 7 straight. They've won 9 of their last 10. They've won 14 of their last 16 games. The Clippers are making major noise. I watched my man Big Perk while I was on vacation talking about this might be the second best team in the Western Conference. We can't rule that out, but tonight would be an ideal time for them to show that, because losing, there's still a possibility that you can end up in the play-in. And if you're the Clippers, that means more games for Kawhi Leonard. Is he going to be healthy? No. You want to play that. You want that brother playing the least amount of games as possible. I think it's an important game for the Clippers.
I'm looking at the Clippers and I'm watching their defense. They've had the best defense since March 5th. Number 1 defense in the NBA. And when I think about them getting stops, they're going to be able to score, right? But how are they going to be able to contain Steph Curry, who's been busting everybody behind over the last 2 weeks? And so I'm looking at that matchup. I'm looking at Big Zubac down low, averaging a monster double-double, anchoring that defense. By the way, up for Defensive Player of the Year, right? Ain't saying too much. He politicked a little bit, but he up for Defensive Player of the Year. So this is going to come down to a game of stops.
I mean, I know you talked about Kawhi and is he going to be healthy, but when he is healthy, the last 5 games he has been more than healthy. 26 points a game, 5 rebounds a game. We talk about what James is doing, getting a little older, but 24 points a game, 10 assists a game. So, and Big Zubac. What are they going to do with Big Zubac down there in the paint? They can do everything they can want. Steph, we know nobody can stop Steph. You can kind of contain Jimmy. You can kind of match those guys up with Kawhi. You can kind of match them up with but who's going to stop Zubac?
You played with Jimmy Butler. When it comes down to these single-game elimination, essentially, when you're talking about play-in versus being a top 6 seed in the Western Conference, take us inside Jimmy's mindset for these types of games.
Ultimate competitor. Chinese checkers, tennis. You see him in Miami. He's playing dominoes with the Cubans on South Beach. He is the ultimate competitor. This brings the best out of Jimmy Butler. I think he loves competition more than he loves basketball.
When I think about the Golden State Warriors, there's one name that comes to my mind is Draymond Green. You the one that made the guarantee during All-Star weekend. You the one that said y'all going to win the championship. You guarantee you going to win the championship. Oh, no. You can't be in no play-in. No. You can't be going home in the first round. Nope. That's the man that said they're going to win the chip. And he has the credentials to back it up. He's a 4-time champion. He's in my vote for Defensive Player of the Year. He knows what it takes to win. Let's see what he does in the situation.
The most important player on that team tonight is Draymond, because he's going to be the only one that got a chance in hell on stopping Zubac.
Well, there's one more player that's pretty important for this Golden State Warriors team, and that is Steph Curry. He is questionable coming into this game. Remember, he sustained that thumb sprain. We're going to have an update from Shams Charania coming up here on NBA Countdown. You're going to want to tune into that to see whether or not Steph Curry is going to be in uniform for this all-important game for the Golden.
The Warriors are monitoring Steph Curry's health after he aggravated a right thumb injury Friday night, banging his thumb in the first quarter of their win over Portland. He played in the second and the third quarters. He did sit out the fourth. The Golden State was up pretty big at that point. He's going to be much needed against the Clippers today. The winner gets a top 6 spot in the West and gets to avoid the play-in. He's all over it. Senior NBA insider Shams Charania joins us now with the latest. So obviously they need Steph feeling as good as possible this afternoon. What can you share about Golden State's treatment on that thumb since he re-aggravated the injury?
And the good news is that x-rays showed there's no fracture in that thumb, but this is the same injury that he's been dealing with since January. He aggravated it the other night in Portland, and this is going to be a lot about playing through pain for Stephen Curry. I'm told the Warriors are going to work to loosen and get mobility in that thumb. They're taking this game very seriously. This is a make-or-break game for them to get into the playoffs. I would expect a great level of seriousness from him, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. It's obvious that Stephen Curry is going to be dealing with a level of pain in that thumb, but he vowed the other night that he's going to play, and I think that's his plan. That's the expectation around the Warriors.
Yeah, Warriors are favored by 4.5. That line is changing just a little bit. And obviously, as you well know, they could use some rest. They could use to avoid that play-in. That game's at 3:30 Eastern right here on ESPN. There's also a couple of other injuries that we're monitoring. Okay, so we have Jaylen Brown with that troublesome right knee. We also have that very frightening blood clot that Damian Lillard is dealing with in his right calf. So if you could, just get us up to speed on each one of those guys as we're getting ready to start the playoffs, and start with Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, starting with Jaylen Brown here, Hannah, he underwent pain-killing injections in his troublesome right knee, as Ramona Shelburne with ESPN reported here for us. And the full expectation is that Jaylen Brown will be ready for the playoffs. He's been dealing with a bone bruise in his knee for weeks now. He just has not been able to get it healed. But last year's MVP will have a week of rest before the playoffs. Damian Lillard, on the other hand, March 18th, he's been sidelined since that point. But there is optimism, I'm told, that he's going to be cleared at some point before the playoffs. Doctors believe that he is progressing with that blood clot, that blood clot is shrinking by the day in his calf. He's going to have weekly doctor meetings. So there's another one coming up this week that will be very key to see whether he's going to be able to make it back for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that is really, really frightening. So we wish him well. He'll just have to take as much time as possible. You know, Shams, I mean, it's been absolutely crazy. I'm sure you really haven't seen anything like these coaching changes this late in the season, what we saw in Memphis and then what we've seen in Denver. I'm wondering, what else should we expect in the coming days?
Hey, and I expect there to be a pretty good turnover when it comes to coaching and front office changes across the NBA here in the coming weeks. I expect there to be multiple coaching changes, multiple front office changes. One we won't see, though, is in Portland. Chauncey Billups, I'm told, has agreed to a multi-year contract extension with the Trail Blazers. They just extended their general manager, Joe Cronin, earlier this week, and now they have fortified their leadership structure by bringing an extension with Chauncey Billups. He's completing his 4th season with the Blazers, and now he's going to be under a contract for multiple years moving forward. They have gone 22-18 the second half of the year. They've had a top 5 defense, a top 3 transition defense team during that span since January 19th, and he has really developed a lot of their younger players. Danny Avdija, Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson. There's been a lot of great player development there in Portland. Now they have a sense of clarity moving forward on Chauncey Billups. He was going to be very, very well sought after if he did make it to the open market. This was the final guaranteed year of his deal.
Such a great story. His transition from player to coach is really inspiring. And I know you have a conversation coming up with Pistons star Cade Cunningham on NBA Countdown at noon Eastern, so really looking forward to seeing that.
Leap to the 4th seed. A Clippers win guarantees that they're the 4th or 5th seed, but they cannot finish 6th due to tiebreakers. As for the Warriors, they cannot finish higher than 6th, but can clinch the 6th seed with a win against the Warriors. All right, we got to talk basketball. So we're bringing in Quentin Richardson to cook here on SportsCenter. And Q, the thing about this game that's coming up with the Warriors and the Clippers, the Warriors have essentially been in the playoffs for the last couple of weeks. And Steph Curry has said that he's going to treat this game like it is a Game 7. So give us one key matchup that we should be looking for.
Man, I got to go with the Kawhi-Jimmy Butler matchup. I mean, everybody knows that the Warriors go as far, as Steph goes. So that goes without being said. But I think Jimmy Butler, this is why he was brought here. He needs to be that other superstar guy that can release some of the pressure on Steph Curry and give him a chance to rest in games and also just give them a stronger scoring option. Obviously, Kawhi being back in the lineup, being who he is, all-star level Kawhi Leonard, he makes the LA Clippers a totally different team, and he gives them that super-duper star who's been to the finals, who's been a finals MVP and gotten the job done.
Yeah, it's going to be such a fun matchup, and ever since Jimmy Butler has joined the Warriors, they've also been cooking. They are 23-7 since they got him on February 8th. However, the loss against the Spurs earlier this week was really costly for the Warriors. That was the worst upset loss in the last 2 seasons, and now Golden State is in a must-win situation against a Clippers team that's now won 17 of 20. So give us a few keys to this game that you see in the Clippers versus the Warriors.
I need the Warriors to bring that three-point shooting that they need, that's part of their identity and their defense. Their three-point shooting and defense is what's going to make the difference here. We know how good the Warriors can be when everybody's making threes, the Pajinskis, the Moody's, the Currys, and everybody. But their defense is what really puts them over the top, led by Draymond doing what he does defensively, playing himself back into a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. That's what they need to do, lock in and lock up the Clippers. As far as the Clippers, man, this is what they do. You need their paint dominance from Big Zoo. Big Zoo has been a problem in that paint the whole entire year. He's a high-level double-double rebound machine, and he gets it done offensively at a high efficiency clip in that paint. He doesn't miss a lot of shots around the basket. So if they can dominate that paint, because the Warriors are small up front, so if they can dominate that paint, that will pose a huge problem for the Warriors.
Yeah, we cannot wait for that matchup. And for Warriors fans out there, the Warriors are 0-3 in 2 play-in appearances, so they're definitely looking to avoid a Q. Really appreciate your time, brother. Enjoy the warm weather out there.